last week I introduced like pulling from the cup because I love to pull from the cup and get random. For anybody listening, Hannah and I had a conversation over the weekend and we said, well, what about a collaboration? I was like, well, absolutely. Let's do this. So every week, who knows? It might be something different. You might see different faces. We're just going to 3-line. I know you're not in your 3-line anymore, but we're just going to 3-line through my 3-line and figure this out.
I love it.
Yes. So how are you this morning, first and foremost?
I'm good.
Yay.
I slept really well. Okay, sidebar. I just got new linen sheets
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they are supposed to sleep cool for us who are very hot now when we sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our 40s. Game changer.
Really?
It was so good. Last night was the first night that they're not as soft as like a cotton sheet, but yeah, I was not sweaty last night, which was
Ooh.
a blessing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the small things. It's really the small things in life. That's what we need. Excellent. Well, what was the brand? I mean, that way we can all experiment.
Quince. Yeah, they have a bunch of stuff. I got even my like these little huggy hoops. I got those on Quince, and they're like 14 karat gold or something like that. But and everything is super reasonably priced for being like higher quality stuff.
Hey, all right.
So
Excellent. Well, plug for them.
get
We're gonna roll.
sponsored.
Exactly. Yeah, we're in no way sponsored by them at all. We're just trying to put it out there.
Yeah. So,
Excellent. So when you and I were talking over the weekend, we were talking about well, hold on. Let's take a step back. A couple layers, right? So the way that Hannah and I know each other is we were introduced by a mutual connection. At the time we lived in the same city. We met, we connected, we started working on some networking things together. And then Hannah is a financial advisor by skill, by expertise, by genius, right? And Hannah is actually the one who introduced me to human design. So she is the one who allowed me to respond. And then I guess it was the right timing because actually someone had introduced human design to me maybe like a year before. And I remember being like, what the hell is this looking like? You know how it looks like a guitar? I was like, what the hell is this guitar looking thing? This is ridiculous. I'm not interested in this. And then what, a year and a half later, it was like, oh, okay. Right timing, right fractal, whatever the case may be. And then my 1-3 went off on digging into all the details. And so Hannah and I actually have quite a few electromagnetic channels. I think maybe 6, 7, something like that.
it's a lot. It's almost the most I've seen with it. I've seen like one other pair of people with more. It's pretty weird.
Yes. Yes. So we connect literally, quite literally, on a number of different things. And what's interesting is that Hannah and I are very similar in our designs, but we're also very different. And we just connect in this very kismet kind of magical way, right? So Hannah and I were also talking about this idea of borrowed frequency and how, when you think about kind of the technical term in human design is not self, but it's kind of hard to kind of like wrap your brain around kind of what that is if you're not necessarily in the world and you haven't studied and you haven't done all the things. Or even if you had, you're kind of like, I still don't know what the heck this is. So, it's this idea of borrowed frequency that when we're operating through what our mind believes we need to be, it's a frequency we're borrowing from other people. It's a frequency we're borrowing from the universe. It's a frequency we're just borrowing from any source, right? And so when Hannah and I were talking about that, it was like, yes, we have very similar designs, but our designs are very different. And one of the things that often comes up in the conversations that we have is this idea of I have a completely open ego and Hannah has a defined ego. And what's interesting too, I was actually thinking about this last night, Hannah, is that you have a defined G and I have an undefined G. And so those things are very different. And what we wanted to talk about today was being cognizant and conscious of your own design, but also the design of those you're interacting with to really, I don't know, Hannah, what would you say? Kind of keep yourself in line, not get sucked into the borrowed frequency?
Yes. And so, like, especially for me, so being a financial advisor, being like someone who guides others and who frequently is the one that um is the giving the structure to people, like, okay, here's what you want to do. Here is the plan or the roadmap to get you there. What I was what I didn't know for so many years, right, until the last 4 years, was that I have a defined ego, which is not rare, but it is, you know, only 30-ish%.
Yeah, you're in the minority. Yes.
Yeah, so most people do not have a defined ego. So when I am, like, saying, "Okay, we're gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna do it," I have the willpower to do that thing. I have the ability to make a promise and keep it. It feels very wrong to me, right, on a soul level to be like to not do something I said I was gonna do, um, in a different way than, like, peer pressure, right? So it's not quite the same, that defined ego. And when I started learning about human design and when I started to learn how rare that was, to have that defined ego, I realized that that can put pressure on people. That my defined ego can put pressure on people to do things that they'll say yes to in the moment and then not be able to follow through with in their own energy when they're away from me. And so then there's this feeling of like, I did it wrong, I'm not good enough, right? On the client side or on the other person. And I'm over here being like, why can't people follow through? And so, like, it was such a huge aha moment, and then could because you and I have talked about this the most for sure, um, we used to practice this, right? Like, I would be like, "Okay, what do you feel like right now?" And you're like, "Well, I feel like this right now." I'm like, "Okay, well, like, see what you feel like in 4 hours."
Mhm.
Because we were realizing what you were borrowing from me in that defined ego, and how do we use that appropriately so as not to condition the other person, but from your language to borrow it when needed,
Mhm.
right? Like, how do we make it a healthy exchange versus a conditioned exchange is really, like, what I wanna know.
Yeah.
Or
Well, and I think that goes back to the players in the game, right? Is like you and I having that understanding because we got really good at okay, because we would meet in person, right? Let's set the stage for everybody. We would meet in person, and after a while, you would ask me those questions, and I was like, "Well, I feel like I could commit right now, but I'm not going to commit right now because I I don't yet know if it's conditioned or it's a healthy yes."
right,
And what's super interesting, and you know me, I'll always go back to kind of the manifesting generator aspect of it, is that the sacral here's and I'll go into a little like the sacral is stronger than the ego. In terms of like when it's defined, it's stronger. Now the interesting part is when when the ego is not defined, the borrowed frequency can be stronger than the sacral.
yeah, duh, because you're completely open, it's like the warehouse that I always talk about, right? Like, if you drop a hammer in a completely open warehouse, it's going to reverberate even stronger than what I'm feeling. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was such a it's good nuance.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how long does that take me to figure out, right? I mean, it's like, we've been at this, what, 3.5 years? I think we're kind of
Yeah,
in, well, at least I'm in the middle of my deconditioning process. And like every time it's the layer pulling back, right? And kind of going back to your question of kind of like how we figure that out, I think it takes experimentation. And it takes experimentation between, let's say, you and me, right? Using us as an example of what that looks like. Again, being a 3 line, it's kinda like I'm still trying to figure out my 3 line because that I mean, that is a roller coaster, I'll tell you right now. Um, But it's kind of like I give myself permission to just, let's try it. Let's see what goes on, right? And this idea of making that commitment in the presence of someone like you who is a defined ego is like, sure, let me let me see if I can make this commitment. And what's great about, and again, I think it goes back to the people in that situation, is that I can also come back to you and later, because of our relationship and how understanding you are, and you know my energy, maybe in a completely different way than I see it, and you understand it, and you're like, okay, then that wasn't a commitment we were supposed to make, right? And I have that safety with you. I have that, you know, courage with you to be like, yeah, Hannah, that was my 3 line. It took something that maybe it wasn't ready for, and okay, now I know that that wasn't the right commitment.
Mhm.
That wasn't the right thing. And you have brought up this thing to me that I always think about now when we're in the idea of clients, right? Is when you said before, is like, why can't anybody follow through? Why is it so hard for people to follow through? And it's always like recognizing what the other person might be going through
Mhm.
or what their mechanics are and having patience with that. I think that's the hardest part.
Oh, certainly. Certainly, especially when you see something, right, that's, like, really clear to you're like, "Oh, I see the pattern that's coming up again." Um, and you know and I have been through this too, you know that you cannot, um, like, force the seed open.
Mhm.
You can't,
Mm-mm.
because then it dies, right? Like, then it's like, "Oh, you messed that up, that was your fault." Like, "Oh, I was just trying to help." Nope, no, you can't help it, you can't force the seed to open prematurely. There's a really good analogy. When an egg is cracked from the outside, it's
Mhm.
death. When an egg cracks from the inside, it's life. Gotta let the
Mm.
egg crack from the inside.
Now, there's a really interesting analogy. And
Let me get
we
coffee.
got delivery.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yay. Um, and again, that goes back to, I think about this a lot, again, from a 3 line, right? So I don't know why the 3 line is like really, um, it's like really predominant for me right now. And I'm not necessarily sure why, but hey, we're just rolling with it because it's like, it's just what I'm feeling with. It's what I'm resonating. That's especially true for a 3 line because from the outside, you know, a lot of people, like you said, I'm recognizing the pattern. I'm recognizing the pattern. What I think I'm learning about that is like we can't see the pattern until it's like smacked us in the face a few times.
Yeah,
And then we just need people to understand the process of I can't just be told something. I have to live it. And living it once probably isn't gonna do the trick.
right.
And it's kinda like, "Oh, there it is. That's how that that's how that goes."
Yes. I get it. I get it. It's very and it's so interesting, yeah, hold on. I'll let my buddy in too.
Yeah, yeah, do your thing.
Oh,
This
Leaf
is this
come
is the
over.
humanness behind life. This is what we do.
Right?
We're not
He
perfect.
Leaf could never my black lab, he could never come in the office at our old house because I was upstairs, and so now he can be in the office with me, and he was yelling 'cause like, "Hey, I wanna be in here." He's very sweet. Um, I'm a 6'2" manifesting generator, and the 6 line acts like a 3, right? It goes through a 3 phase in early life up until your Saturn return. So up until, late 20s usually for people. And so I really identify with that. And what's super interesting, and I was thinking about this today too, is that I really have my whole life have wanted to learn from others rather than make my own mistakes. I always had that thought of like, if I can just do it right the first time, if I can learn from someone else, why would I want to go through it and have to make my own mistakes? And it's very interesting. Like I can see the 6 and I can see the 3 in all, and then like that pull, like wanting to learn from others, wisdom, wanting the role model, right? Because the 6-2 does really appreciate other 6 lines, um, and yet still having to fall in it and fall on my face and try things and go through hard shit. And it's like, yeah, you can't avoid the threeness of any version of a 3 line, I don't think.
No, and think about it that, right? So you've got your 3s and you've got all your 6s. And then you've got 6 3s or 3 6s, right? So when you think about kind of the profiles and kind of the distribution among the population, the majority of the population, now I don't know the statistics, but the majority of the population has a 3 line process.
Yeah. And
It's just
even if you don't have it as your profile, which again is super important energy, but even if it's not your profile, I mean, it would be in infinitesimally small percentage of people who don't have a 3 somewhere
yes,
at some part of their design where they're going to have to go through that process, even if it's not a main energy.
right. Or think about the people who have 3 environments,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
You're you're here to be in a trial and error environment, but also what I'm starting to learn is, the energy around environments is that you are also there to kind of embody that energy as well. And so think about that though, that if you don't know anything about that and like you're in you're it is correct for you to be in an environment that trial and error, it messes up. It's bonds breaking and making. It's somewhat chaotic sometimes. But like, just imagine if that is the environment you're supposed to be in. 3 is not a part of your profile. Maybe it's not a huge part of your design, and you're just like, what the hell am I supposed to like? Why does this always feel like things are breaking? Well, because they are,
yeah.
and that's necessary to find your purpose.
Which environment is the 3? I forget.
What do you mean?
Um, Whether it's shores or caves or
Oh, ooh.
it's one of them. One of them is the 3. I have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going into those classes come September. So we'll get there. No, caves I think is
I think it's,
what?
yeah, 1.
Um kitchens?
It might be kitchens. Kitchens would make sense.
It might be kitchens.
Okay,
We'll
hold
do some
please.
research for
Okay,
everybody out there.
you put it over there. I'll see.
Yeah, you do that. But this also brings up an interesting thing about what you touched on before because I wanted to talk about this too. Is that those we're going back to kind of the original, right? Defined ego versus undefined ego. And we can kind of like wrap this all into talking about environments and all those things too.
It is
Mm,
kitchens, but
okay, and we can talk about that. But if the majority of the population, like it's 2/3 or maybe slightly more, who has an undefined or completely open ego. And yet, what is the message that we hear all the time? Follow through on your commitments. Make that commitment. Uh, Tap into your willpower all the time. Discipline. Duh, duh, duh. And it's
yep.
like,
Consistency.
well, 2/3 or more of us are not here to demonstrate that energy.
That is crazy to think about with
Mhm.
how predominant that messaging is.
Mhm. Well, think about it though, right? If we think about the mechanics of that. So those out there who have that, just like you, who have the energy to make the commitment, who it feels incorrect. We'll say incorrect, not wrong, but it feels incorrect not to follow through on the commitment, not to keep it together once you've made it. And then if that's one third to a little bit more than one third of the population, the rest of the population is amplifying that energy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there we go. There's that flip side of the mechanic again. So yeah, it's the striving energy. It's the
It's
trying
the
even harder.
it's the competitive energy, right? And it
That's so funny because I am not a super competitive person with anyone but myself.
which is hilarious because I can be the most competitive person.
Yes, that's so true. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I never thought of that. If someone is trying to compete with me and like trying to make something, I'm like, I immediately am like, no, thank you, I'm out.
Yeah.
Nope, not doing
Well,
it.
part of that too is you don't have gate 51, right? Yours is gate
I don't think
26.
so.
Yeah.
I have six.
So
Yeah.
gate 51 is the gate of competitiveness. So that would make sense, but at the same time, it is a mechanic of the entire center. But it's hilarious is that, I wish we could go and do like if we could chart the entire planet, right? And then and then go back and be like, on social media, what is your message? Is your message one of discipline, commitment, willpower, follow through, got to do, be this, be number one, da 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 da? And it'll be like, oh, interesting, right?
Hmm.
Who's perpetuating the message more than the other?
Yeah. Hmm. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I mean, my solar plexus is undefined, as is
Yeah.
yours. So I have really understood that exact same mechanic from the emotional side, right? Like that has been a huge learning for me. But yeah, I mean, I am integrating a lot, even just from that little piece of like, oh, people who are undefined are amplifying
Yeah.
my my ego.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think it's so important. And kind of from a messaging standpoint, at least when we talk about human design, it's like, I think there's more reward. Reward may not be the best term for it, but there's is really focusing on the borrowed frequency, or if you're being technical, the not self, right? It's because, your true self, you don't need to do anything for that to be there. We can get into a borrowed frequency of our own definition, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. We can talk about that on another call. Um, but that's why I think it's so important. That's why I focus so much on borrowed frequency, is because once you start to understand and unlock that, then all you really have to do, I know this sounds really simple and like ethereal, but all you really have to do is follow your strategy and authority.
It's true though.
All you can do.
Yes, I mean, both being generator types, right? The respond, like it's so even in my first like 2 years, that was such a frustrating concept. Is that I'm here to respond to life. Like respond to what? And the more you just like chill out and notice the things that are coming to respond to, it's so obvious once you see it and once you learn to feel it. Like, oh, no, that you're getting stuff to respond to constantly. Your
Mhm,
sacral is constantly talking if you learn to listen to it.
mhm. Oh yeah. And I've said this before. It's like the generator type, whether you're manifesting or pure, it doesn't matter. We're the only ones who have a mechanism inside that tells us, yes, we have our energy is available for something, or no, it isn't. I mean, think about the power in that. Right?
Mhm.
And that's not to knock any other type. I mean, every other type has a genius and a power that is very unique to them. And you and I just can't speak to it because that's not who we are, right? But I mean, it it is just learning, bypassing the frustration of, you mean I'm not supposed to do anything right now? Kind of thing.
What? Yes. Yeah, it's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
I have a client who's a projector, a splenic projector, and, um, such an interesting breakthrough the other week that when she gets an invitation, it's hard she'll feel the yes or the no so strongly,
Mhm.
but there's, like, a dread when she knows it's a no, like, this person is gonna give me an invitation, and I know I don't wanna accept it. There's a dread in her body about saying no to the invitation. And part of it, we, like, dug through it a little bit. It's like, "Are you worried that you're not gonna get another invitation?" And there was like, "Yeah. Oh, that's there. If I don't take this invitation, then like, that's a bad decision. I should always say yes. You should." That's another cultural myth, right? Like, say yes. Just say yes. Just see what happens, right? And there's a projector, I think that's more of a projector wound,
Mhm.
right? Of not being invited, the
Mhm.
fear of not being invited. But once you can relax through that and see, oh, there are invitations everywhere, everywhere. And your splenic authority or your emotion, whatever your authority, hers is splenic, is here to guide you as to which ones to say yes to. So when you're feeling dread in your body, to like practice saying no as often as possible. that's that's
Mm.
like that's it. That's to your point, like the strategy and authority, like it can be that simple when you lift off the conditioning of I'm supposed to say yes.
Mhm. I had this aha moment the other day in that realm of like, you know me. I have had to decondition saying yes. To your point, got the open solar plexus, and it's like, don't want to piss anybody off with my no, so I'm just gonna say yes, even though my body is like, do not do it.
Right.
Do not say yes. Um, is that your no is somebody else's yes.
Ooh, yeah.
And again, I think it goes back, and this could be a great segue between our my 48 and your 16 is, you know, we're all conditioned to believe, o- wherever it comes from, right? However it enters into our borrowed frequency, that we have to be everything to everyone. And or that competitive nature of, I've got to prove I can do this thing, blah blah blah, to show that I'm great, or that I'm the best, or that I'm the most giving, or I'm the kindest, or whatever the case may be. Um
The most humble.
yeah, yeah, right.
So humble.
But and it was kind of like that aha moment of, well, I am here to be a specific version of myself. You are here to be a specific version of yourself. I'm really good at certain things. It's taken me a long time to say, yeah, I'm not good at that thing, or I don't need to prove that I can go do that thing. And that's what I was like, oh my God, my no opens up a door in the universe for someone else's yes, for someone else's talent, for someone else's expertise to come into that door and be given an opportunity to showcase their talents. Mine will, for every other no that somebody else says, could be a yes for me. Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, like 100%. Like that's literally why we're all here. We're all unique. There is again, like the chance that you have the exact same design down to the line designation as anybody else is almost non-existent
Mhm.
because there are so many iterations. There are millions of iterations of what your design can be. And each of us is uniquely suited to something. Right. And so I think the other aspect of this is like being able to say no, feel good about it,
Mhm.
and detach, right? Like, I mean, that's a whole, um another whole process to learn of, like, what happens if I say no? What happens if my body is telling me no, and I honor it, and I say no, and I let that opportunity pass, right? There's so much else. I think it's the conditioning of, one, scarcity. Oh, that was money that I let go. Or, opportunity. Oh, that's publicity that I let go. Or, relationships. Well, at least that person was there versus not having someone there, right? Like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? Like all of that. So honoring our no comes with a whole host of, like, you have to work through some different fears that might come up, and that's where people tend to sink into the comfort again, the comfort of, "Okay, I understand this discomfort, I'm gonna stay in it,"
Mhm.
versus stepping into, what if you honor that "no" that you're feeling and walk through those fears so that you can see that there truly is an opportunity for a yes. You just made space. Like you said, you made space for your yes, you made space for someone else's yes, and um it can be scary until you've done it.
Yeah. And even when you do it and you're somewhat comfortable with it, it's still like, "Oh god, okay."
Try it again.
'Cause, that borrowed frequency never goes away. But it will never go away. It's important to keep honing in on that message of, like, it's never always gonna be sunshine and roses, right? I mean, w we have to work every single day to fight our minds and fight the conditioning, whether it's coming from other people, whether it's coming from our past, whether it's coming from the universe, right? I mean, we're always in the weather of the universe, so there's always something influencing us or trying to influence us. And it goes back. I would love to have an open conversation about this too. Is that going back? Hannah and I, one of our electromagnetics is I have the 48, Hannah has the 16. And so together we create the channel talent, right? Mastering skills through repetition. And how this ties into what we were just saying is that I am a simple split. I either need gate 16 or gate 20 to bridge my split. In my conditioning, my yeses are driven by this combination of my borrowed frequency, right? So I have an open ego, I have an undefined G, I have an open solar plexus, and an undefined head, plus those two gates, 16 and 20, right? So my borrowed frequency is I have to remain busy building skills in order to find love and direction, to prove that I know where I'm going, to answer all of the questions that float through my head, and oh, by the way, not piss anybody off when I'm doing that, right? And the yeses are very much conditioned by that 16. So for me, because I have the depth, I'm like, I need all the skills to show that I'm talented. Oh, shit.
Well,
I've never said that before in my life. That's
ooh,
a new way of saying it, right? I need all the skills to show that I'm talented. Holy crap. Uh, sorry.
write it down.
You'll see these things happen as they go. Um, so I know what my experience is like. What is your experience on the other end of looking for that depth? And how does that show up in your life?
So that has showed up, I mean, especially when I was younger, just constantly. Because what I do find is that, I mean, as an example, I've been in the financial industry since 2006.
Mhm.
I have a lot of depth. I have a lot of mastery there. And it's, when I was doing, I mean, I've done so many licensing exams, I have my CFP, all of these different things. And anytime since then, so I finished my CFP, I think it was 2021 when I actually finished it. It took me a few years to get through it, which is normal. But after I did that, I haven't, I mean, like anything else that has been like, get another certification, do another thing. I've started a few things and been like, yeah, no. It's so interesting. I mean, even with we'll see. Maybe I'll like come back around to it. The gene keys. I love the gene keys in addition to human design. Um I've thought, and with human design, this another one where I was like, I don't know if I can like tell people and like help them with this if I don't get the certification. Right. That was definitely a thought for a long time. It's one of the reasons I didn't hold myself out as, someone who can help with this, because I'm like, well, I didn't do the certification. And same with gene keys. Like, well, if I get the certification, I can put it on my website. And I had to just I had to just like be okay with that. Of like, you know what? I've embodied this. I have studied it a crazy amount, like
Mhm.
thousands and thousands of hours over the last 4 years. And could I have gotten a certification? I could have. But if I allow myself to just follow my passion, follow what's sparking intrigue, that's a big piece for me as a manifesting generator. Is I don't know why this is sparking my interest, but if I follow it, there's a reason. Um, Ceramics was a thing too. I mean, I still like, I would love to find a ceramic studio here, but art, music. I mean, there's a reason why I am drawn to certain things. And then when I am drawn to them, I think it is the mechanic of the 16 not having the 48 that I want to, dive so deep and I want to know everything. And then when I feel like I've learned enough, I kind of like, oh, okay, I can just let it go. Not in the sense of like put it away, but incorporate that into my experience. And so, I mean, and I can say that with like lots of other healing modalities. I've heard other people be like, "Oh, you're so good at this, you should get certified in that or in this." And I'm like, "No."
Eh,
No, it wasn't meant for me to do that. It was just meant for me to experience and to incorporate into my lived wisdom, because that 6 line needs it, and it adds to everything else, adds to my tool belt, I'll say.
yeah. That this is why I always love hearing about, like, the opposite side of a channel, is because, one, you hear that there's a lot of similarity, right? It's just it's a different lens of the same, it's a different side of the same coin,
Right,
right? Because it's all rooted in talent. That particular channel is rooted in talent that's built over time through repetition, about which something you feel really enthusiastic about, right? If you're
right,
keynoting that channel, that's what it's about, right? And it's a part of the understanding circuit. So it's all about logic. You're starting to see these patterns, but the thing about that channel is about uh, the patterns that you start to see. But what makes it the channel of talent is that the more that you get into the pattern, you start to make it your own thing. It becomes your talent that you are enthusiastic about. And this is what you're talking, like, as you're talking, like, so many details were like going through my head. But this is the beauty of design, is that, you exactly hit on it. It's like you're building these skills, or you're trying to get these skills, right? In the depth, one, you're here to meet people who have the depth. Hi, right? Right. You and I were meant to, our fractals were meant to cross, right? But it's also your design. Like, go back to your sixth line. Your sixth line is more about living the example, right? You're on your roof stage now. You're there to gain some objectivity about your experiences, to see the optimism in what you've gone through, and all the subjectivity you had to deal with in the first 30 years of your life. And now you get to just kind of like sit back, reflect on it, look out over the horizon and say, yeah, I don't need the depth. The depth will be there as it's intended to be there.
Mhm.
And the opposite is true for me, right? I mean, I'll deep dive into things, and again, it's my 1-3 profile. You give me a
Right.
1, girl, I'm going so deep into that thing, you can't even get me out, right? And look at me. I did go for the certification
Right.
because of my death, right? Because it's just a part of my energy. It's a part of, it's also the fear of inadequacy, right? So again, when we talk about definition, that isn't necessarily a borrowed frequency of that. It's simply that it comes out of the splenic system. Every splenic gate has a fear related to it. So does the solar plexus. So does the ajna. But whatever, we'll talk about that later. Some other live, right? Um, but when you look at kind of just how your design comes together, like, my fear of inadequacy is I just want a solid foundation to stand on. So my 1 profile supports my depth. Your 6 profile supports your skills. Right? And it's that's what I love about design, is that, like, you can pick one teeny tiny little part of your chart and then go really deep into it, like skills, and then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, no, 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 but let me come back up to the surface. And here's how it applies to the whole." Right? So, the more that you and I come together, what we're doing is you're bringing your skills, I'm bringing your depth, and together we create a talent related to explaining human design to other people, because we keep doing it. We're enthusiastic about it. We come at it from different lens. You're bringing different skills. I'm bringing a new layer of depth. And voila, Hannah and Lauren have a collaboration that
It just keeps going.
just keeps going, right? And I'm like the really innocent one who needs to, like, blah, I don't even know what I need to do. And you're the one who's like, no, honey, like, you're the wise sage of like, okay,
I have
well,
I have so much six-line energy in my
yeah.
profile. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I had a question there too, because, um, I mean, human design is a perfect example. It took a while for you to feel comfortable to start talking about it. And that was so again, this idea of how we interact and how we being super aware. I was going to use the word sensitive, and that might be correct too, but also just really aware of how we connect. And I think this one's important because I've actually gone through and charted a lot of my clients. I get a chart on all my clients, but I've gone through and looked at where I connect with them,
Mhm.
and I would say at least 30%. It's a pretty good percentage of people. It's the 1648
Mm.
that I have a hanging 16 and they have a hanging 48. And that is a very strong connection point for a lot of people. So for me, like again, like with the ego piece, I've learned how to back off, how to help people, right? Because it is a mechanic of, hey, I can help you get through this thing right this minute. Let's do it together.
Mhm.
So a lot of my process is do it together. Um, because then they can go then reflect on it afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But the 1648 feels different to me. And so that's another one where it's like my enthusiasm in this channel is like, yeah, go for it. Do it. You've got it. Right. Like I see it. I see what you're doing. And I can't wait for you to like show it to the world. But that again, because I have so many clients who have that hanging 48, they tend to, when they're not with me, then they come back down into it. They're like, no, I don't know enough yet.
Hanging on.
So yeah, yeah. So again, like what's the for you, what was the thing that helped you feel ready? And is there a way that I could have been more supportive, you know, versus conditioning? Yeah, that's my question.
Oh, that's a great question. I think my aha moment, I'm gonna go back to the 3 line, right? So for anybody out there who doesn't necessarily understand kind of how the profiles work, I think the profiles could be a whole thing in and of itself. Cause like the more that you feel into your and experience your profile, you're like, okay. But for me, it's how I started to understand the profile. So I have a 1-3 profile. My 1 desperately so my 1 is my conscious side. It's what I'm aware of. And so I'm just educating them out there. My 3 is my unconscious line. I'm not aware of it only through learning and then experimenting with it. So it wasn't until I started to look at how those 2 lines really go together. So most people's profiles actually are they're friction. They
Right.
don't go together, except if you're a harmonic one. We'll talk about later. Anyway, and what it was for me is that ones want to build a foundation. They want to stand on a solid foundation. So that's when it's like, well, I don't know enough. I can't put it out there. I don't want to be challenged. Also, I have the channel 1762. Like, don't challenge my opinions. It's fear of having your opinions challenged. Um, and then the 3 is all about the trial and error. And it was the aha moment of I can't build a foundation if I don't go out there and try things. And so now when I look at anyone's profile, it's like, how does the unconscious inform your conscious or who you think you are so that you can kind of break free in a way, I guess, of those mechanics that are inside of you. Like, I can't change the fact that by nature, I have a fear of inadequacy when it comes to talent, like, of all these things, right? Um, but it was kind of like, oh, but remember, Lauren, your 3 line is built with a ton of resilience. Like, you are here to get knocked down or knock yourself down, kind of, right? You're here to pay the price. You're here to, do all the things. And that's how you figure it out. So that's how I build depth too,
Right.
right? And I don't, to your second part of your question, I don't know that there was anything different or that if I look back on it, you as my financial advisor could have supported me in a different way. I think a lot of times what has always helped me is that commitment that you bring, right? Is that conditioning because you condition me just like my root conditions you, right?
Well,
You condition me to commit. I condition you to like feel all the pressure.
yeah.
Um, and so it's like bringing those 2 things together. But I don't know that you could have done anything different. I think it's try it. Who cares? It's not a big deal, right? Because I also have to fight the perfection energy in me, right? I have a lot of logical energy, so everything has to be perfect. And it's like, okay, I'm so sick. I'm trying to be perfect. It drains the hell out of me. So I'm just like, screw it. Don't care.
That's real. That's super helpful. To know actually, and I remember that conversation now, and then I've used that several times with other 1-3 clients that the 3 gives you the data. The 3 is the experimenter, the 1 is the researcher, right? The researcher needs the experiment. Like
Mhm.
you have to have both because that's what's giving you the data.
Yeah.
Your one line and that has that particular thought process has helped a lot of people,
Yeah.
with that 1-3 to like, it's like you said, the one that wants to be perfect, it wants to know everything, and it's like, well, your 3 line, if you allow the 3 line to do its thing, you will get more data.
You may not like it. It
Right?
may be really painful along the way. Uh,
Yes. Oh,
yes.
that's such a good point though, and the that is there I tend to think of, the people going back to our conversation about, your no and your yes, and really being grounded in your no's and saying being true with your no's so that you make room for the yes. That the 16 in particular, and I'm just speaking from all of my in the now moment right now, it feels like people with a hanging 48 connect to my 16 because they're looking for that cheerleader,
Mhm,
that encourager, that like, "Hey, you are awesome at this. Like, go share it. Like, I'm gonna give you the lift, literally the lift up to your throat to
mhm,
share what you're so amazing at." Because that would be an interesting piece to, like, look through to those clients who are, electromagnetic at that point, to just feel into if I have been more of a cheerleader for them. Because even my energy of, like, how I approach my clients, how I work, I'm not the same. Just like I'm not the same with all my kids, right? Like, everyone gets a different, like, the version that my intention is that they get the version of me that they need.
mhm,
Um, and so, yeah, there are people that I maybe more, have a little more gravitas with, and people that I have more of a cheerleader, and people who I have more of a, um, I don't know, more of a familial like, but that's if I just let it be what it is, if I'm not trying to micromanage the energy, it is like that does feel like my natural enthusiasm
mhm,
that can come out and be exciting and be the lift that
mhm.
someone needs to try.
Yeah, because the enthusiasm in the 48 is, like, the enthusiasm to want to go deep
Yeah.
in that thing, that you identify with the desire or ability to grow depth in that area. And what's hilarious is that's a 48 4. Like, 4, hello, 4 line. It's there to be shared. It's there to be universalized. It's there to be, among friends, among the network. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, I see it. I see it now. But again, it goes back to understanding the mechanics, like where we stop ourselves when it comes to definition because it feels not enough. And then our borrowed frequency is where we feel too much, which is another live topic we should tackle. Um,
Ooh,
yeah, well, we'll leave that one hanging because we've been on here for an hour.
yes.
Um, is there anything else that you want to say?
Hmm. If anyone is watching this and they are a coach, specifically, a coach, a consultant, someone who helps guide other people,
Mhm,
this is this is where the industry is moving towards. Absolutely. Is to you need to understand who you are and have an understanding of who your client is so that you can guide them in the way that's correct for them. And so I don't think this is not a passing fad or a trend. This is a shift in how people want to be worked with, and how we can understand again how our energies affect each other. And
mhm.
if you're a coach and you're constantly conditioning and pushing on your clients, that energy is out. That
Yep.
energy is gone. This is this
Yeah.
is this is an extremely important topic, and one that deserves all the airtime so that we can start to help shift how we are supporting others and how we are being supported ourselves.
Yeah. because background frequency is changing in 2027, and the world will come crashing down a little bit.
It's all changing, baby.
Yeah,
We're
it is all
we are
changing.
seeing it. We are seeing it now.
Yes,
It's happening.
yes. Well, Hannah, where can people find you if they want to connect with your genius?
Easiest place to see all of my different offerings and it'll take you everywhere is hannah.rchapman.com, HANNAH Chapman, CHAPMAN.com. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I post everywhere. And then you can also go find the Expansive CEO podcast. And you can go there and search for Lauren. And we have done, I don't know, 3, 4 episodes. We've done a lot of episodes together over there as well. And lots of really, really good information and fun conversations and deep conversations and economic conversations and all the things. So Expansive CEO podcast is a good place.
Perfect. Well, I'll put all the links in the little thing that I send out tomorrow. But thank you, dear friend. I
Thank
love
you.
you so much.
I
Yeah,
love you too. This was so much fun.
I know. Excellent. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll do this again soon. Well, Hannah and I like to live moment by moment. 6-2 manifesting generator, 1-3 pure generator. We just make it up as we go along.
Here we go. And when it feels good, we say, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So we'll come back to it. The one that you just said, the too much, not enough.
Yes.
Love that conversation, and the way you
Yes.
just put it was like. So we'll talk about that soon.
Yes. Exactly. All right. Well, I love you, friend. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Love you too.
Yeah.
Bye.